Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a relationship loop? Playing out the same script over and over again? Maybe one partner feels a little distant, the next one feels way too needy, and you're left wondering, is it me? Am I the common denominator here? Well, chances are, yeah, you are, but probably not in the way that you think. Today, we're going to unlock the code behind these patterns.
I mean, it's the million-dollar question, right? Why do we find ourselves in the same dynamics, with the same frustrations, even when it's with a totally different person? It can feel so confusing, so deeply personal, and it usually leads us to a conclusion that feels true but is actually way off base.
Right? We tell ourselves it's some unique personal flaw. We think, oh, I'm just too needy, or they're just emotionally unavailable. But here's the thing, that belief is a mirage. It makes our problems feel random, chaotic, totally unsolvable, when the truth is, they're often incredibly predictable. So our goal here is to shift away from all that confusion and get some real clarity. Because the truth is, there's actually a scientific framework that explains all these repeating patterns, and it's called attachment theory.
Okay, so let's dive into what this really means. Attachment theory basically says that how we act in our adult romantic relationships is, believe it or not, directly shaped by the bonds we formed with our parents or caregivers when we were just babies. It's not random at all. It's more like a blueprint that was drawn up for us a long, long time ago.
And this blueprint, well, it tends to shape us into one of three main attachment styles. And understanding these patterns, that is the absolute first step to finally decoding your own behavior in relationships. And maybe your partner's too. First up, we've got secure attachment. These are the people who, just find it pretty easy to get close to others. They're comfortable with intimacy, they're comfortable relying on someone and having someone rely on them, and they don't waste a lot of energy worrying about being abandoned. They're just really good at saying what they need and hearing what their partner needs.
Next, there's the anxious attachment style. Now, people with this style really, really crave intimacy and closeness. But, and this is the tough part, they're often completely preoccupied with their relationship, constantly worrying that their partner doesn't really love them back. They're super sensitive to any little change in the emotional weather and often need a ton of reassurance to feel okay.
And finally, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the avoidant attachment style. For these folks, intimacy can feel like a loss of independence. They put a huge premium on their freedom, and they tend to keep partners at a bit of a distance. When things start to feel too close for comfort, their gut reaction is to pull away and create some space. So when you lay it all out like this, you can really see the core conflict, can't you? For the secure person, intimacy is just natural. For the anxious person, it's this thing they desperately want but are also terrified of losing. And for the avoidant person, it feels like a threat to their very sense of self. It's like they're all running on different operating systems, and you can see how easily those systems are going to clash. And that clash? Well, it leads us directly into the single most common dynamic that causes so much frustration in relationships, what we call the anxious-avoidant trap. It's a very predictable and often pretty painful dance of conflict. So here's the absolute heart of the issue. It's this total opposition of needs. Think of it like an emotional thermostat. The anxious partner's thermostat is set to, I need more closeness to feel safe. But the avoidant partner's is set to, I need more space to feel safe. So when they're together, they're constantly fighting over the temperature, trying to turn it up and down at the same time. And this is exactly how that cycle plays out. The anxious person feels a little bit of distance, so they pursue connection. They lean in. That pursuit makes the avoidant person feel smothered, so they withdraw to get some breathing room. They pull back. Of course, that withdrawal triggers the anxious person's deepest fear of abandonment, so what do? They pursue even harder. And this cycle just goes on and on and on. Okay, but here is the really good news. Seriously. Just understanding that you're in this trap is the very first step to getting out of it. It's not a life sentence. You can actually forge a new, more secure path just by turning this knowledge into real, concrete action. And it really comes down to a pretty straightforward three-step guide. First, you've got to identify your style and your partner's. Just being able to name the dynamic can be a massive relief. Second, you have to practice direct, honest communication. No more games. And third, you have to consciously work to build new, more secure habits into your relationship. So what does that direct communication actually sound like in the real world? Well, instead of acting out their anxiety, the anxious partner can just calmly say what they need. And instead of just ghosting for a few days, the avoidant partner can state their need for space while promising to come back. This simple shift, it is an absolute game changer. And let's be super clear about this. The point isn't to perform a personality transplant on yourself or your partner. It's not about changing who you fundamentally are. The goal is to stop letting those old, automatic, unhelpful habits run the show. It's about consciously building a new dynamic where you both actually feel safe, heard, and respected.
Ultimately, it all comes back to this one idea. Once you understand the blueprint that you've been working from your whole life, you finally get the power to revise it. That self-awareness is the key. It's what unlocks healthier, happier, and way more connected relationships. So, as we finish up here, I'm going to leave you with a question to really think about. Based on everything you've just heard, what is the one conversation you know you need to have, maybe with your partner or maybe just with yourself, to start building a more secure connection?